All right, guys, thanks for tuning in on this very special Veterans Day. We've been kind of touting this all week that we're going to have a special show for you guys, and we've kind of let out little pieces here and there, and this is what we're doing today. We thought, and we didn't think that the subject has been covered enough. We thought we'd reach out to some coaches. We put the call out. If you guys saw all our social media, we put the call out for coaches who were veterans of the armed forces, and we felt like that subject hadn't been touched a whole lot about the active duty soldier, airman, Marine, or sailor or Coast Guardsman that made the jump from military service to the coaching community. You hear about it all the time with the athletes, but we hadn't really heard a lot about the coaching staff. So who we have with us today, we've got Kenedy Athletic Director, Head Coach Shawn Alvarez, John Paul, Offensive Assistant Bridger West, Veterans Memorial Defensive Backs Coach Charles Harris, and our very special guest today, Cincinnati Bengals running back coach Jemal Singleton. All these guys here with us today are military veterans who have joined the coaching community. What we wanted to do was kind of find out, what the move was like, what drove them to coaching and things like that. I'll give you guys a quick background, everybody, real quick. Jemal Singleton is he's an Air Force Academy graduate, coached at the college ranks. He's currently coaching in the NFL. We kind of talked a little bit offline with these guys, and Coach Harris, actually, our paths crossed a few years ago during active duty service. It just goes to show you how small the military community is, and how you know somebody somewhere. Coach Singleton and I have a very interesting story. We'll start with that. I'd been following. I follow a lot of Air Force stuff on social media. I'm a retired Air Force vet. And I follow all the Air Force Academy stuff. And one day this tweet popped up from a Coach Singleton, and something about college day and wearing his college gear. And he was all decked out in his USAFA gear. And I'm looking at the name. And I'm like, man, that sounds very familiar. So I started digging through my stuff, and come to find out, he was actually at the Air Force Academy and was a cadet assigned to my basic training flight at Lackland during the summer. And that kind of got the wheels going. That's what started the line of communication with us. And come to find out, and one of his former teammates I actually served with you probably saw him as well, Coach Harris, Captain Mike Roberts at the time. He was an environmental engineer that taught the engineering block there or the environmental block there at Brooks. So it's just crazy how small this military world is. Coach, do you want to talk a little bit about who you are, how you got where you're at, Coach Singleton?
Yeah, well, you kind of hit on it. I'm being an Air Force Academy guy, played ball there, and was going to be a pilot. That was my whole time going through. I had in my mind I wanted to fly A-10s. I thought they were just a bad bird in the sky, and that's what I wanted to do. So my first year after graduating from college, I spent at our prep school. So there's a prep school on campus as well, and I coach ball. So I was taking my introductory to flight training, flying Cessnas, and coaching football. And it was cool. I thought flying was fun. I enjoyed it. But man, I fell in love with coaching and just still being a part of the game. And to be honest, made the decision after that year that, I don't think flying's what I want to do with my life and my career, and gave up my pilot slot. Obviously, I still had my Air Force time to serve and had to find another career field. But did that, got into public affairs. But, that coaching bug stayed with me. Was fortunate enough to get back to the academy while I was still active duty and serve as one of the military coaches on staff there. But really, it was just the game of ball and doing some coaching and realizing that I think this is something that I'm passionate about and something that I'd like to do for the rest of my life if possible. So far, it's worked out. I'm going all right now. Still got a long way to go, of course, but obviously that decision hasn't hurt me a whole lot.
Coach Harris, give us a little background on yourself. Tell us who you are and how you got here.
Well, it all started when 2000, after I graduated, had a son. So I was already in college. So I got out to go ahead and start making some money actually, and it kind of just fell into place to join the Air Force. And once I joined, one of my supervisors was coaching the Little League football on base in Okinawa, Japan. And from there, I just stuck with it. I was coaching one of his kids, and then after that season, coached another year. And then after he left, kept coaching. And once I finished playing for our base team, I just stayed with coaching and finished up my degree once I got out in 2012 up at UTSA, and got on a team up there in order to be a student manager. And then from there, I coached out of the state for 2 years in Ohio, then 2 years in Colorado, then came back to Texas and just been coaching high school for 7 years now.
What about you, Coach West? Let's get a little background on yourself.
First time coaching was right out of high school, coached my little brother's youth team, and then I only spent a year as a civilian before I joined the Air Force. Signed up as a Reaper crew chief and went to Alamogordo, New Mexico. I was there for all 6 years of my enlistment. We didn't really have a lot of duty stations we could go to at that career field, and I got involved with coaching the local youth teams after about 2 years of being stationed there, and got an opportunity to be a head coach in one of the youth teams for the next 3 years while I was there. And I got to help out with the high school. And then there was like a kind of like a semi-pro, they call it semi-pro, but it's like a amateur league for adults out there in Alamogordo. And I kind of helped out coach them. Decided not to play too many injuries for me throughout football, but kind of kept with coaching there. And then once I got towards the end of my contract, I decided that coaching was what I wanted to do as far as my career goes. And I enrolled here at Del Mar, where my parents live, and here in Corpus Christi, and working on my bachelor's degree, and I'm coaching it now at John Paul II. And with TAPS rules, you don't have to be a teacher or a full-time employee to be able to coach football there, and it's just kind of a seasonal job.
Well, that's pretty good. It's like an OJT kind of thing. That works out.
Yeah, it'll look real good on a resume whenever I finally get my degree, and then it'll all kind of be built up by the time I'm done with my school. So I'll at least maybe be able to land myself a pretty good job. I plan on trying to do a graduate assistant or work my way to the collegiate level when I'm done with my degree.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Good.
On that path. Not
Hey,
right behind.
it's there, right? Coach Alvarez, give us a little background on yourself. Who are you and how'd you get here?
I have a quick question for Singleton. Before I start, can he hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, so do you remember a guy that went to the academy? His name was Keith Boyer.
Yeah, I know.
He
people,
coached
yeah.
at the prep school as well.
Yeah.
He was a quarterback. I don't know when you played or when
I
you
know
were at
Boyer.
the. So he's from George West. I'm from George West. It's just a small little town here in South Texas. Actually, not far from where Jacob's at right now, but he was our quarterback in high school and then went to the academy. But before Keith, there was another kid from George West that played at the academy, Jason Blevins. He was more like a special teams guy.
Yeah, I know
But
Blev too.
I don't know
I
when you.
Jason.
Yeah, so I think, well, Keith, they're both out and they did their time. But Keith actually coached at the prep school also for a little while. So I don't know if you're ever around those guys, but it's kind of.
Yeah, but a bunch. See, I was at the academy for a lot of years, both as a player, then as a coach. And so I got back there in 2003 and was there till 2011. So I got a bunch of guys I played with, a bunch of guys I coached. So most of those academy guys from really 2003 and those early 90s when I was playing on, I have connections. I know
Yeah,
Blev
it was
and Boyer.
weird. Like when Jason got his appointment, everybody was super excited about it in town. We're just a small little town. And then 2 years later, Keith goes. And I'm like, God, we're sending two people to the Air Force Academy. It was pretty cool. So we actually just sent a girl. I'm the athletic director at Kenedy High School, a small little 2A school in the same little area. But we just sent a girl. She got accepted into the academy. She's there now. She's on the dance team. She's not there for athletics or anything, but she's there. So it's pretty cool to go. Anytime I tell all those kids, anytime you can get a shot to go to one of those places, you're doing something right. So it's cool. But no, I actually went and played football at Sul Ross, and when I graduated, I was there for 2 years, and just kind of decided that I needed to get moving. We were just kind of hanging out, not doing much, just playing football, not attending much class. So I joined the Coast Guard with actually 2 other guys from George West, and we did our thing for 4 years, and then got out and finished my degree. And I kind of always knew I wanted to get into it, but joining the military kept me in that kind of team environment, that camaraderie with all the guys. I think, you all get used to that kind of stuff. And, I thought, well, I can go from high school football to college football to the military and be around the same kind of deal. The Coast Guard was fairly small at the time. We didn't have but like 38,000 members total. So the selling was really easy to get us in. And, it was cool. I got to see and do things that I probably will never see and do again. But the experience was awesome, and just kind of being a part of the whole team environment was cool. So I really enjoyed my time in the military.
Coach, you talk about the team environment, right? And I can ask each one of you guys now is, what do you miss about the military life, right? And my big thing I get asked a lot is you have that camaraderie that you build up between each other out there, and that is probably from the outside looking in, I would think that is one of the things that makes the two careers very similar in coaching and the armed forces. Is that correct?
Yeah, that for me, that's the biggest thing, is that it's the closest connection, is that if you really enjoy athletics and you enjoyed, I think we all play high school football, and you're like, those are my boys, and you hear that message preached to you so much, and then you go off, everybody graduates and goes somewhere, and then they still become your friends, and I mean, they stay your friends, and then you still want to be a part of that. I think the closest connection you can make is joining the military when you want to do that. That's just my opinion. That's why I joined, and I was like, man, this is, and the Coast Guard was small at the time, and we were on a patrol boat in Miami. It's a small group as far as the guys on the boat. You connect with them. It's kind of like your team. It's the same kind of environment. So it was really that was the whole reason I was doing it, was just to kind of stay close to sort of a football team mentality. But it was fun while it lasted.
So obviously, other than that, what drives you to coaching, right? Because, when I was in the service, I got my degree while I was in there, and it wasn't a coaching degree. It wasn't anything to do with what I'm doing now. When you a lot of the buzzword in the service when getting degrees is business degree. I'm gonna get a business degree. I'm gonna get a business degree. What drives you guys, or what drove you guys to choose a path in the athletic field? When you hear all this other chatter, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?
I think, for me, just there's no other place like a football locker room. I mean, no other place in the world where you get so many different people from different backgrounds and really all fighting for a common goal. And I think as you get older, you can't play forever, and there's always that little piece of you that still wants that part. And I think the next transition for that is obviously coaching. I think, hearing all kind of the message we've already said before, the military really is that, the whole team aspect of it as well. So you see a lot, and I have friends of mine that I played with that are coaches now, that are academy grad military guys that are coaches, and it's just a transition. There's a lot of things that I learned going through training at the academy that helped me on the football field, that helped me in coaching, and really just helped me in life. And I think at the end of the day, just to still be a part of that, to see, that you can help a young man find himself through football is a pretty awesome deal. So I know for me, I can't imagine what my life would be without football. So it's kind of where the direction that I went.
Yeah, I agree. you know, the ability to like impact. I know everyone, you know, we read all those quotes and we see all that stuff that, you know, we impact this many lives that people do in a lifetime or whatever it is. But I think that's the funnest part is you being able to really make a difference in someone's life along the way, especially at our level. You know, kids, you find those kids that need athletics um, more than athletics needs them, and really, you know, help them steer them in the right direction, and be able to teach them and kind of raise them along the way. That's the best thing. But it is the closest thing. I mean, when you think about when you're done playing at whatever level, and let's say you join the military, I really feel that, you know, the football environment, the team environment is the closest thing to all that you know, if you're not the player. I mean, like you said, you can't play forever. I don't know if y'all remember when Bill Parcells got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Um, his Hall of Fame speech talks about that, how there's nothing better than a football locker room, and how there's like everything's in the locker room. You know, if you think about, and he like goes into depth of explaining it. It's pretty neat. And I'll go back and watch it just to, you know, like kind of reminds you of, you know, who you're around, why you're around it. But it is cool. There isn't really anything better than the locker room, being around, you know, a group of guys like that, you know, constantly. So it definitely makes, it doesn't seem like you go to work every day. You know, it's just, you're out really having fun. You're kind of a big kid in a way, you know, coach all the time. So it's definitely enjoyed.
You know, you kind of, you know, I use that analogy a lot, you know, when you're in the service and you get out, you know, well, it's time to grow up, right? It's time to, now I got to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. And, you know, why wouldn't you want to choose a career path to where, you know, you are still that same person? You know, you actually, it's like you grow up with the kids, right? In essence, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're at that age again.
Yeah.
You know, you keep up with everything that's going on. I mean, we're, we're seeing it now, you know, like I said, Justin's 27. I just turned 44, but you know, being with these guys and talking to these kids, you know, it kind of takes you back a little bit, and you can kind of relate to what these kids are talking about and what they're going through, and it kind of, yeah, it does make you feel young again. You know, Coach Singleton, coaching, you just talked about this earlier. You know, you don't hear a lot about it in the NFL about vets coaching, but you're actually on the staff with another NFL veteran, right, Coach Turner?
Yeah, one of our offensive line coach was a Marine, so he served some time there. There's actually been friends of mine that know Joe Lombardi. He's a coach in the NFL, works for a couple guys. There's a lot more than you think. We kind of keep tight to each other. Actually, the small world again, one of the first running backs I coached at the Air Force Academy, Chad Hall, is now the wide receivers coach at the Buffalo Bills. So another guy that, you know, Academy grad guy that I coached and worked with is gone on to the NFL as well. So I think military men and coaching, it's just a great fit, just the discipline that we can pass on to young men. And, you know, even in the NFL, these guys at the end of the day, most of them are still in their 20s. They're still kids in a lot of sense of the word. So it is there. I think for us that have gone through the military and carried on the coaching, I think it is a benefit.
Coach Harris, Coach West, you guys are you guys on mute? You guys are a little quiet. You know, you guys got anything y'all want to interject?
Just listening. A lot of knowledge going around. Yeah, I think there's a big correlation between that. Whenever I made staff sergeant, there was a kind of like taking these like 18, 19-year-old new airmen right out of tech school, kind of under my wing, and teaching them all the little things that I learned when I was coming through, and how to do all the little things right, and how to kind of deal with some of the what we called it even at the time off the field stuff when you weren't dealing with stuff at work, like home life stuff, and dealing with that now. It's a big some real useful information I learned when I was in the military that I can kind of carry over to like really helping out some of these, 17, 18-year-old kids that we have playing football for us. And it's not much different.
Yeah, and it's the same reason I haven't said anything, because all of the coaches have been hitting it on the head. For instance, here at Vets, we go all the way down to our middle schools at least once a week. So we're dealing with our freshmen, even though we have freshman coaches, the varsity, of course, and like I said, the middle schools. So we're getting to instill traits that pretty much I learned in basic, and still getting to use those day and all the other things that I learned throughout just my 18 years in. So I love it. I enjoy it. And it's just being able to bring those kids together and just look, this is A, B, C, D. If you do it this way, just like how we had directives, if you do it this certain way, it's going to work. But if you try to do it your way, then something's probably going to be missing. So just instilling all that type of things into our kids, and it's showing each day, each week.
I tell you what's pretty cool though is we have 4. Let's see, it's me, Murrah, Ramirez, Straube. There's 4 dudes on our staff that are veterans, and really, it's cool when you're able to share your story. And everybody's is different. You know, Coach Murrah was, I mean, he was in the thick of everything, attached to the Marines, and so, you know, when the kids hear him talk or he shares something that that you know, it catches their eyes and their ears, and they're like, they really look up to that kind of stuff. And there's a lot, like, you don't think about just talking about that when those kids kind of decide, hey, I want to go do this. And then, you know, we have 2. We have one that joined last year. We had a girl get appointed to the Air Force Academy. We have a kid that joined the Marines. He's leaving, or he left in September. And then we have one that's leaving to the Marines when he graduates. So it makes you feel good when you can, you're able to share that and kind of your experience and what it was like, and maybe prep them or say, get ready for this or don't do this. And then when they, you know, they're able to touch base or, you know, get back in touch and like, hey, coach, I love it, or thanks for helping. That's kind of the special part, you know, for us, you know, being able to share our story, you know, in the military and why we did it and how we did it and what we did. You know, the boys really, they show a lot of interest in that. So it's really cool to see that year in, year out.
You know, you guys kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want you guys to expand on it. You know, when you guys were making this jump, you know, from active duty or from school into the civilian life, you know, was there anybody there that helped guide y'all through this transition from, you know, from service life to coaching, or was it difficult? Was it easy? I mean,
For me, I'm only 8 months in. I'm 8 months removed from active duty service, and still doing Air National Guard. But I mean, it's kind of just something I have a little bit of family support. But other than that, it was just kind of something that I decided if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all out and do it, not only halfway do it. And then I have my wife, and she supported me very thoroughly with it. And then my parents being able to kind of just like be really positive enforcement. But overall, it's not been like, and it's been mostly just me. I don't have any real individuals that's kind of helped me through it. And finding the job at John Paul, that was just Google. Talking, I got a cousin that comes up in Canyon High School in New Braunfels, and kind of talked to him about what can I do? How do I still coach? I didn't really want to coach youth football anymore. I wanted a little more experience while I was going through school. And he said that TAPS is your only opportunity, really. So I started doing some Googling and found out and emailed the athletic director up there, Andrew Leone, and interviewed me and gave me a job. He's teaching me a lot.
And y'all just got a playoff spot last night, didn't y'all? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. I know it's been a while coming out there.
Yes, sir.
Coach Harris, Coach Singleton?
Well, for me, I would say I had a few people, you know, once I started asking the questions, point me in the right direction. But like to get that job at UTSA, it was just perfect timing. I would say I was getting out, and they were, I think UTSA was just in their first or second year, and they had just finished up their first full season, and I just put in for it and made sure that I put in that I was a vet. And this, you know, San Antonio is a veteran city, so just hope, wish, prayed, and I got my foot in the door and just trying to blow it down now.
So did you get out? Were you at Lackland when you retired?
When I got out, I was at Randolph.
Okay, at Randolph.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And my transition a little bit different. So I was able to come back to the academy as a military officer. That few coaches on staff that are still active duty at the time. So I got to do that for a little while, and again, just loved it, and really thought that, at the end of the day, the only thing that was going to get me to leave the military was going to be a position coaching job in college level. So kind of was where I was at. And I remember calling my mentors, a guy by the name of Larry Fedora, Texas guy as well, head coach a couple places, and he had coached receivers when I was a player. So I'd always kept in touch. And I'll never forget, I called him. It's like, hey, I'm thinking about making this jump out the military and trying to do this coaching stuff. And he told me I was stupid. He told me, he's like, what are you doing? You got an academy degree. Why do you want to live this life of a football coach? The late night, just went on this whole rant rave about it. And I was like, well, not really the call I expected or what I expected to hear from you. But that's how it went down. I was like, but, this is what I'm doing. And then he flipped it and really kind of helped me out with some things. But I was able to actually got hired on at Air Force time. Again, right place, right time in this profession sometimes. And the running back coach was leaving, and I played for Coach DeBerry, was on the staff there, so it was an easy transition. So I separated from the Air Force, started coaching there, and lo and behold, 6 months later, Coach DeBerry retires, and I'm looking for a job.
Wow.
So get out the military, and my first basically getting fired was 6 months after getting in the profession. So you got a little bit deeper than I did, Bridger, on yours, so it's a little bit off. But it worked out. I ended up getting retained and stayed with Coach Allen when he came in. Kind of done with there to Oklahoma State to Arkansas, and then spent a couple of years in the NFL, 2 with the Colts, one with the Raiders, and my second season with the Bengals. So crazy profession. I've moved more as a coach than I did as a military man, so it's a little bit crazy.
And that's the other part, right? I mean, that's the unfortunate part of being a coach, right? Is the movements, right? If you're moving, something usually didn't go right most of the time. Sometimes it's for a job promotion or something, but so yeah. So
I tell people, my wife, like I said, she's a saint because she married a Air Force officer turned football coach. She's glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
I guess so. Spud, you got anything? I mean, you're kind of just sitting
No,
there.
I'm just soaking it up. Want a career change, to be honest with you.
So what kind of advice would you guys give to the aspiring veteran, the aspiring coach that's a current active duty serviceman right now? What resource, what advice would you give yourself right now?
Honestly, the biggest, like right now that I can hire people, that's the first thing I look at on a resume is to see if they are a veteran, if they were in the military. And that would be my advice to anybody. If you were in, like, you got to really promote yourself, like promote that part of yourself. Like, don't, if you only did 4 years or if you, whatever you're, even if you're like a reservist, like go and really advertise that big time, because a lot of people do look at it. I mean, I just hired one guy and he's a steal, but I just in conversation talking, it's not like it was, just printed all over his resume that he was in the Navy. In conversation, in our interview, just kind of tell me about yourself type thing. And he's already been coaching for like 8 years. He talked about the Navy, and I was like, wow, cool. So, to me, it's you need to use that as much as possible, because people do look for that. I don't think people are sitting there going, I'm not going to hire somebody that was in the military. I think people want that type of employee. So that would be my advice to anybody, is promote it as much as you can, advertise it, print it everywhere, put it everywhere so everybody can see it, because it is a big deal.
Coaches?
I would say just soak up as much information as you possibly can when you're in, because back then I didn't think I just thought it was, when I first got in, just propaganda. But as I went through my years and served my time, it just felt like if you didn't do A, B, C, D, then you weren't going to reach your goal. So, and that's the way that I approach the things now, like I said in the past, and that's how I teach my kids. We learn step by step, and then we move on to the grand scheme to show the whole lost my track of wording. Show the final result in a sense. So just little bit by little bit, showing the goal, and then making sure that we can reach it. And that's how I teach it now.
Coach West?
I'm still new, man. I'm going to hear what they have to say because I'm the person they're talking to. I'm the one who wants to hear the information.
So I meant to ask this earlier, and Coach Alvarez, you kind of hit on it already. Do your players know y'all are veterans? And if so, you know what how do they, what kind of questions do you get?
So mine do. I talk to them about it. And I've got a lot of seniors actually on my team. Well, we have very few seniors, but the seniors that are on our team, I have a couple of them that have asked me questions, some of the juniors too, just about the military, wanting to know, because some of them are interested in going in themselves. And since I'm so freshly removed, I've got a little bit more insight about how it is right now. And a lot of them, more of them want to know the differences in the branches. And obviously I don't have a ton of information. I was deployed with the Army in Afghanistan, and I've been around the Marines whenever I was in Italy, but as far as really knowing the true differences in the branches, I don't know a lot, but I know enough that I can kind of give them at least a little bit of information. And the big thing they just want to know is what I have a couple of them that want to know if they should go enlisted or an officer, and I always say go as an officer. After being enlisted, if you're going to go be an officer. If you want to make a career out of it, I think you should go be an officer, especially after being in the Air Force. The pilots and all them, they get the good treatment.
That's what my dad told me.
my younger
dad was a 20-year military guy.
Yeah, my younger brother, when he was talking about joining, I told him, I was like, you're not going to go in unless you're an officer. I won't let you go in as enlisted.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad as enlisted. I enjoyed my time in, but I think you get a little bit better of a deal if you go in as an officer. But a lot of the high school kids, they really have a lot of questions. They really just want to know like what it was like, and like what a lot of the different jobs are, and what can they do. And some of them, like some of those kids, like that's the best option for them coming out of high school.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like having that experience on staff with anybody is that like when a kid's graduating, the next move isn't always it doesn't have to be college, and they know that. There's some kids that don't fit in the college world, or maybe they aren't ready to further their education at 18. And sometimes they forget that the military is a real option. I mean, like if you want it like from the athletic standpoint and then joining the military, you continue to kind of stay in that kind of mindset of like your teammate, it's the same thing when you join. So I think, when you're a veteran and you're on staff, you're able to share that information to them and what it's like and encourage them. If they don't know what they're going to do, hey, go do this. I mean, there's 5 branches. You can join any one of them. Take your ASVAB serious. Don't just go and burn through it. And, you get to there's so many things that positively come out of being in the military, whether you're enlisted or, you go through the officer ranks. I always tell kids you can go see things that you'll never see. I mean, coming from a small town in South Texas, I'll never see the places that I saw, just the few that I saw in the Coast Guard. I wasn't, we're not stationed all over the world, but enough, being all over the East Coast and in the Virgin Islands, I'll never go see that stuff again. So I tell kids that. I'm like, I did and saw things that I probably would have never done or will never go do. So, just being able to share that information. A lot of them don't know. There's some kids that, come from, a different or tougher background, and you want to help them kind of, get connected and go in the right direction. The military is that for them. And then they really eat it up and decide to do it. When they come back and they're successful, it makes you feel really good. So, I think that's a huge plus, having that veteran coach on your staff, being able to share that stuff and really educate the kids in the right direction is a huge plus.
Coach Singleton, I'm interested to hear the pro players' perspective on
Yeah,
on your status.
yeah, my guy, they all know. They all know it's in the Air Force, probably because I talk about it a lot. We talk about being an Air Force guy and those type of things and just the difference. So, even in the running back room, no matter where I'm at, college, NFL, those guys know. And, I'm usually going to be rocking something Air Force at some point and having those conversations at times. And what you find out is a lot of guys have, my cousin or my brother, there's a connection that they have to the military or to one of the academies, and the great thing, the NFL obviously this month does that salute to service game, and we get the salute to service gear, and it becomes a little bit more at the forefront. You get guys that, do some work with different organizations, that are pro-military and helping those out, whether it's TAPS or Project Healing Waters. There's some different things that they get involved in. So it's pretty good. I think the NFL has done a pretty good job about showing that, and then being the guy that's in it. Even one of my running backs right now, his brother-in-law is a pilot who graduated from the Air Force Academy, Giovanni Bernard. So it's that military. I think most American families have some sort of connection to the military, and I just like being a resource when guys are asking, for that. Like, what was it like? What did you do? Those type of things. Now, I don't have some crazy, illustrious type of military career. Most of it was spent coaching ball, but just my academy days and a couple of deployments. It's always awesome to talk to those guys about it that are interested.
Where
I'll tell you what, like we have this character development stuff we do. And when we bring in recruiters, just random, like if I can get a hold of a recruiter or anybody just in the area, when we bring military people in, the boys, and we do it for both sides, the boys and girls, but it seems like that catches their attention more than anything. I mean, we'll bring in like county judges or like, someone of success in the community. But every time we bring in somebody, can y'all hear me? Are y'all there?
Yeah, no, we got you.
Sorry. Every time we bring in somebody attached to the military, it seems like we grab their attention even more. So it's very impactful. Everybody that has that story or has that experience to these kids, because we let in our junior high programs we say, okay, today's our guest speaker, this person, and there's a ton of questions. Where did you go to boot camp? Where were you stationed? What'd you do? How was this? How was so it brings a lot of definite, that they definitely want to know, or they're intrigued by the idea of someone who was in, talking to them. So it's pretty cool.
So we're getting close to time. So I got another question, two more questions for you guys. So, and it's a military and civilian question. So as a service member, what was your biggest accomplishment that you're most proud of while you're in the service, and vice versa in coaching? What are those? Don't be afraid to jump in.
Yeah, I guess I'll start really quick. I guess an accomplishment. We were sailing to. It's kind of weird. I'll make it quick, but we were sailing to right after 9/11. We were going to the Virgin Islands to escort cruise ships in and out. They had a big old deal that needed a bunch of protection for, I don't know, whatever was going on. But we were going out that way, and we were leaving the Florida Straits, and we were headed to Puerto Rico first. We were going to get there and kind of get off and moor up and get some more gas, some more fuel and food. But on the way, it was rough, and the captain was kind of crazy. He kind of liked to hammer down, and he said, "Hey, y'all want to get there quick, or do y'all want to just kind of take our time?" And we were like, "Let's just get over there so we can get off and kind of enjoy ourselves before we get to the islands." And so he hammered down, and we're taking on heavy, heavy seas. And my buddy was the engineer of the watch, and he was on the mess deck area, and he opened up one of the voids, and we were taking on water. It was super crazy. And I was like, he calls up to the bridge, and I was on the bridge, and he's like, "Hey, Shawn," he says, "tell the captain we're taking on water." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're taking on water right now." I'm like, "No way." So we kind of put everything into place. I was just like a volunteer on that. I was leaving that boat or leaving my boat going to California. So at the time, it was just kind of a free ride. They needed somebody to help quartermaster their route through the islands. And I said, I'll go. The guys on that boat were pretty cool. They kind of like to party a little bit. So I kind of said, yeah, I'll go. And I go with them. So I was kind of like a volunteer. I wasn't stationed on that ship, but I just went for fun. Well, we turn around and we're taking on water, and it's a huge deal. So we get to Puerto Rico. We actually go Roosevelt Roads. They sent some divers. We had to pull in really quick. We had P1 pumps blowing everything off. I mean, it was crazy how much water we were taking on, but we were safe. But when we got to the accomplishment thing, when we got to Puerto Rico, all Coast Guard brass was there. I mean, we pulled up and it was like, wow, who are all these people? And the first thing they asked was, where's the like volunteer guy? And I was just a little seaman, like nobody. I was a nothing. It was a good crew to be around. And they presented me with this big award for like, volunteering to go help and time of need. I mean, it was pretty neat. It was a long time ago, but I always feel good about that little story of accomplishment. I got some extra mark or some deal. It was cool, but it was an accomplishment, my accomplishment in the military. So I enjoyed that.
Coach West?
For me, I guess it'd be whenever I got picked to be a crash recovery team leader. That was one of the coolest jobs I've ever got to do. We were the first responders. We're like the aircraft experts for whenever there was any aircraft incidents for like our entire base. And we had F-16s, F-4 Phantoms, MQ-9s, and the one real bad crash we had to deal with was they were testing these. They were like crop dusters that they were testing to be close air support aircraft. And there's a bunch of retired Navy pilots. Well, they were testing them out there at White Sands Missile Range, and when they were doing diving runs, one of them didn't manage to pull up in time, and there was one of the pilots, or the gunner escaped, but not the pilot, and that was pretty rough having to be out there having to clean up after that, because it was just it just kind of exploded. The whole plane did in the dirt, but it was cool to be able to kind of be like on the front lines and being able to be hands-on to like kind of just be there for the first, or be one of the first responders to everything. And it was a much more exciting job than just turning wrenches every day like we were like I was for my first 4 years, because you go to work every day and just kind of like service the planes. I mean, to some people it was cool to be able to launch out the planes. They go on their missions and you recover them, refuel them, and do maintenance, but it gets mundane. When you get to do something a little more exciting, it was always fun. That was probably the best thing I got to do while I was in.
Coach Harris? Coach Harris had a couple of different career fields. I don't know if we talked about that. I know we talked about it before we hit record. He was a big ammo guy. Ayayas, right?
Yes,
You got that tattooed on your back?
No.
You guys don't know what that means. You guys look it up. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to give the acronym on the show. It's a family-friendly show. You guys are curious, go look it up. But what do you got for us, Coach Harris?
Every morning from leaving tech school. But I would have to say probably my most memorable experience was when we had a real world sea Bernie deal on Randolph. We had a chlorine leak, and it was the one. It's right. Our chlorine tank is right by the main gate, so we had to respond to it obviously very quickly. And then on top of that, I was the one that one of the guys that had to go in and figure out the plume and make sure that everyone inside that plume was evacuated so that nobody would get sick or anything else. And just going in and some of my friends coming back who actually went in deeper, telling me how high their readings were. It was crazy. It was to the point where if a car would have drove through that plume, it would have seized up within seconds and dried out, and all the fluids would have dried out, and the person inside of it would have been gone in seconds. So it was just going through that and going through that whole spiel that's when it made it real, instead of just going through exercise when that was our first real deal, and that was my most memorable.
Yeah, Coach Harris and I crossed paths as just like Coach Singleton and I did back in probably the early 2000s when he switched jobs. We talked about this before we hit the record button. I was actually one of the instructors out there when he was going through one of his schools, so I'm glad I taught you very well, Coach Harris. I'm glad you used that knowledge that I passed on to you, and you were able to remedy that situation.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Coach Singleton.
You know, like I mentioned, I didn't have just a crazy illustrious military career, but you know, I was deployed. I went to the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, and I was really one of the only Air Force guys on the ground. I'm there with guys, and it was a train and equip mission. So I was there with the 10th Special Forces group of Green Berets that were there, and I was a public affairs guy. So you know, public affairs guys and special forces, those guys just don't kind of blend very often because they don't like talking to the media. They're dealing with any of that stuff. So kind of a little bit of an outcast. But I think one of the things that we talked about a little bit is just part of a team and playing ball. And just I was fresh out of college, been out for about 2 years, and was still had that mindset of how I did things. And they were the same. And that's one of the things that just stuck out to me immediately in that deployment was how that group of Green Berets was as tight as a team, really tighter than any other team I had ever seen and been a part of, because their lives were in each other's hands for a lot of times. But these were legit dudes, guys that were, been up in the mountains in the snow, fighting wars, and I mean, just all that stuff. And really was that allowed me to kind of connect with them. And it was in a weight room. So I was still lifting. I remember going in the weight room and all the team guys are in there working out. So I come in there, here's the PA guy. I'm throwing weight on the bar. I'm still picking up big and strong and squatting heavy and doing that stuff. And they kind of really from that moment there kind of changed a little bit. We're like, hey, he's got a little bit different mindset. So for me, just the accomplishment was as a public affairs guy, I was able to kind of build a relationship with some Green Berets that probably wouldn't talk to me from Adam if it was anybody else, but was able to build that relationship there and had a good deployment at that point. So really, that to the extent of it, that part was probably the best part of my career that I looked at it, that it was a combination of being a ball player, being a military officer, and dealing with some elite pros in the military profession.
Well, they probably won't say it, Coach, but, if they had known at the time you were a college athlete, they probably would have fanboyed all over it, because they have heroes too, right? Yeah. I mean, you hear about it all the time, right? Everybody hears about these SF guys and rightfully so. They deserve a lot of the praise that they get, but at the same time, those guys watch sports as well too, and they've got their favorite guy here and there too. So only if they had known, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure those Army guys would like an Air Force guy, but
guys, again, thank you for coming on this week. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day, especially since everybody's got playoff games to get ready for. Well, except Coach Harris. Coach Harris, you guys are still in the regular season, but you still guys got a season to prepare for. Coach Alvarez, you guys are – see, I would think, and we didn't get around to that, and we may have to do another show. Coach Alvarez took over a Kenedy program that was 0-23 before they got there. And this year, they faced Refugio for a district championship this year. So he's had quite the turnaround story there in Kenedy. I'm pretty sure the community's pretty fired up about that these last couple of years. So they've got a game to get ready for as well. Coach West, same as you guys. I know you guys are having meetings and things to get ready for y'all's round next week. Guys, again, thank you for everything you do for our kids, for the community. And thank you for your service, guys. I mean, I can't say that enough. Appreciate everything you guys have done and everything you guys are doing now. And again, thanks for taking the time out today.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having us. Thanks for reaching out. It's pretty cool to kind of get on something like this. So I wouldn't have thought it, but thank you for doing it. Thank you for putting it all together.
Yeah, just to echo, appreciate it. Appreciate you for giving us the opportunity.
Absolutely, James. Cool stuff y'all doing down there, man, helping these kids out and getting the word out about them. It's awesome stuff, man, and thank you for your service.
Well, and that's the question I probably should have got into, but that's a whole other conversation for another show, right? guys, again, we're keep tabs on everything that you guys are doing. Coach, we may be out there on Thursday to catch you guys in y'all's first round in Ingleside. See what you guys are doing. See what these Lions are going to put out on the field this week. Coach Singleton, we'll talk again offline. I'd like to keep in touch. I think you're a wealth of resource that our kids in our area down here could use. So I'd definitely like to touch base with you again, guys. And I'll tell Mike you said what's up. Again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this show, and hopefully we'll be back again later in the week with a playoff breakdown of Week 1. Guys, again, thanks a lot, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Jacob. We'll see you.